The next group, remember, a group is an entity which is between two vertical lines. The next group on the Core Data tab of the ribbon is library maintenance. We'll start with the bill library, although you should not need to make any changes to this library because it is the ASA/QS version, and that is what they issued. It asks you if you want to back it up before you start, if you intend to make any changes. And I will say no. I'm just going to show you how it works. Let us have a look at something like earthworks, and let's go to excavations. Notice that this is a tree. This screen is written as a tree, so it has plus signs just like Windows Explorer, and you expand by clicking the plus sign, and to close it you click the minus sign again. Okay, so essentially this lists all the bill items for you. The standard trades are all here. You'll see them if you page down like this, the whole list of trades and the entire list of trade items in your bills of quantities. A change here will be reflected across all your jobs when you open the library to save new items. We'll get there when we talk about bill production. But you can, for example, where's the caption? There it is. Add a new child below the current item, or add a new library item at the same level. So there is my new item. I right click on it to edit it, and I can say something like not exceeding 3 meters deep, for example. Okay, what happened when I said create a new item at the same level as the one that I clicked? It took from it its unit of measure and all its characteristics. I see it actually set it into non-adjustables, which it probably shouldn't have done. We should be able to now set this to earthworks. Earthworks. Okay, and that's something that we need to remember to change. Obviously, it should attract the same work group as the one from which it was cloned. For the moment, I'm going to delete this item because we don't want it in our library. So the item should be highlighted, and then you click this trash can button, which will delete it, and now we're in the same position as we were before. Remember, access to this library and all the other libraries can be stopped for particular users. So you can set it up to allow changes or not, as you like. There are various buttons here which will, this right arrow will expand the whole trade, but it'll take quite a long time, so I'm not going to do it. This will collapse the whole trade. This one will add the new library item at the same level. This one will add a new child below the current subheading. And this one will duplicate the selected item. This one allows you to print, and this allows you to assign elements and sub-elements which should actually all be present. And there are other items here to allow you to update a group of items with a particular unit of measure and with a work group. Okay, so now we're going to have a look at the cost plan library. You'll see that there's a list of elements that you probably are familiar with. Here are our primary elements. Let's have a look at unreinforced strip footings. What I'd like to explain is that these items form the basis of your cost plan. And your cost plan can be measured in its entirety, and if it's decided that the project will go ahead, you can generate a provisional bills of quantities from the cost plan by virtue of the fact that we have the underlying bill items linked. So in order to build these strip footings, we need the footings themselves, we need 0.5 meter excavation, we need to allow for risk of collapse, backfilling, blinding and concrete. And you'll see that these items below, which are called the rate build-up items, are actually the bill items which you're going to use when you create the bills. What is also important is that variables have been set up to indicate the width, the thickness of the footings, the depth of the excavation, the thickness of the wall, and the depth of the blinding. And these formula variables are used here in the formula against each item. So that, for example, this is the excavation, and we're going to say excavate to the depth represented by dig and the width represented by WID, and this will be multiplied by whatever you measure ultimately against your cost plan, so that we get a factor 0.225 which will be applied to a measurement. And in addition to that, we have a rate which is linked to a rate code. I'm going to touch on the cost plan rates a little later, but there is a whole string of rates for each trade which will return against a code that's been selected, and we can have a look at it by clicking the drop down. So this says under footings and bases, and it returns us a rate of 1400, which will be applied to the measurement multiplied by the result and multiplied by the rate. That will give us a value. Okay, if you needed to make an additional item exactly like this one that I chose, the strip footings item, there are various options where you can duplicate an item and then you can edit it to suit what you want. You could, for example, make a different width and a different thickness to this footing, change the variables, and then it will calculate correctly. So that is the cost plan library. Now, as promised, we come to the cost plan rates. This will simply show us the detailed rates for any trade that we care to examine. This has been sorted for some reason in descending order. I'm going to use the sort function to sort it in ascending order. Let me just show you what I did. I clicked the little button on the right hand side of the column heading, and I'm going to click sort A to Z, which is in ascending order. All right, what we can see is that there is a multitude of rates for many items. These are bill items, and they will relate to a particular or a set of cost plan items. Each one carries a rate, a unit of measure, and a trade. The region happens to be South Africa. This should be hidden, so I'm going to hide it. You don't need to see it. And these rates can be amended. You can update the rates by a percentage. You can create a duplicate set of rates. Other countries will carry probably different rates in their own currency, and this is a way of maintaining the rates, so that when you select the rate against a rate build-up item, it will pull through the correct price